Welcome back to the Means Report. We appreciate you joining us, and as of this air date, we are enjoying some crisp, cool weather, quite appropriate for this time of year. What is not appropriate for recent months is the silence of the season, if you will. Chief Meteorologist George Myers joining us now on the set. And George, welcome back to the Means Report.
Good to be here.
We have just gone through hurricane season, and I don't know if you talked about more than 3 or 4, and that was in the early going. Is that true?
You know, it seems like it has been a very, very quiet hurricane season. Yeah. And back in May, the folks at the National Weather Service predicted a busy hurricane season.
That's right.
And here it is, November's wrapped up, hurricane season is over, and we're saying, they missed the forecast again, nothing happened. But actually, the guys at the Weather Service were right on the button. Their forecast was incredibly accurate. What happened was, all the hurricanes formed, but none hit the U.S. Now, if you were living in Mexico, it was a very active hurricane season. They got hit by Hurricane Carl, 23 people died, $4 billion in damage. Now, if we had had that happen here in the U.S., we would have said, boy, what a hurricane season this had been.
You're right.
And the folks in Belize and Haiti also hit with hurricanes. So the hurricane season primarily affected the Caribbean and Mexico as far as landfall. So, and take a look at the graphic here. I want to show you what the National Hurricane Center, or excuse me, the National Weather Service forecasted back in May. Now, they predicted 14 to 23 storms. You'll see in parentheses in yellow what actually happened. We had 19 storms.
That's right in the middle.
They hit it. They also predicted 8 to 14 hurricanes. We had 12.
Boy, they're good.
That's pretty good. And they predicted 3 to 7 major hurricanes. That's winds in excess of 111, and 5 formed. So you talk about a forecast right on target. They hit it.
Well, and the fact that we got bypassed doesn't mean that we're in for a horrible year next year, does it? You just can't tell.
Not necessarily, no. We have to wait and see how things shape up as we head towards next year. But relatively speaking, it's all according to where you're located, and this was a quiet hurricane season for the U.S. because we weren't hit.
Well, since there were no hurricanes, and with those hurricanes, all the rainfall, we find ourselves in a pretty bad drought situation.
Yeah.
Georgia, South Carolina, and other parts of the nation. Why is this happening, and do you see relief there?
Well, it's also tied into the hurricane season. A great relief for the U.S. that we weren't hit by a hurricane, but yet we need tropical weather to bring us the beneficial rainfall.
That's right.
Because at least 25 to 30% of our annual rainfall comes from tropical storms. The remnants scoot up through the Gulf of Mexico and bring rain to Georgia or South Carolina, where they brush the coastline and bring us beneficial rain. No hurricanes hit the U.S., so we didn't pick up that rainfall. And so we have this drought, which continues to increase as we head into the late months. Take a look. This is our 2010 rainfall, or lack of it. Normally at this point in the year, early December, we should have about 43 inches that are seeing that much. So far, only 27.5 has fallen. That gives us a rain deficit of nearly 14 inches. And what's really happened is, you look at this next graphic coming up, it's really dried out the last 4 months when hurricanes could have helped us in August and September. Now, this is what should have happened. These are normal rainfall amounts, about 4.5 inches for August, 3.5 for September, 3.25 October, and about 2.5 for November. But here's what really happened. We'll put in those other columns. Only 2 inches fell in August, less than 2 in September, about a ½ inch in October. That's terrible. An inch and a third in November. So without the hurricanes helping us out and the lack of rainfall, you can see how our deficit has increased to nearly 14 inches for the year.
All right, so we may be able to survive the drought of 2010. We're not going to make up a 14-inch deficit in a month.
Right.
But I'm guessing it would take many of those dry months before it reaches a critical situation, before we start talking about water restrictions and things like that, right?
Right, exactly. And the problem is, the prediction for the upcoming winter is to be very dry. We've talked about El Nino and La Nina. Everything is blamed on those two weather patterns. El Nino means a wetter and colder winter like last year, but this year the La Nina pattern is very strong. So we're looking forward to a dry, warmer winter. Which means there won't be much snow.
I was just
sorry, kids.
When you say dry, I think no snow.
That's no snow. And of course, we're in Augusta. It's not going to snow much anyway. No. But very little chance of snow occurring. Rainfall chances will be down, and temperatures will be warmer than normal. So the drought will continue. And many folks say, well, so what? It's wintertime. Who needs rain? Well, we got to recharge the soil moistures, the lake level, get all set for the growing season. So it's very serious when it doesn't rain in the winter as well. And right now, it looks like that's going to happen.
Well, and we're off to a chilly period here in the the early going of December, but you're saying overall, don't look for a stone cold winter.
No, and of course it will be winter time, so there will be some cold days and cold nights, and rain will move through. But the overall pattern right now looks to be drier and warmer, as opposed to last winter when it was colder and wetter, and we had our third biggest snow ever. Remember last February 8th, or it was February 12th, I believe, had 8 inches of snow. So this winter should be warmer and drier, but we'll see what happens.
Overall, as far as the two-state is concerned, do you think the weather is coming along nicely? I know that many years ago we did talk about water restrictions all the time.
Sure.
Every time we got together, we did talk about heat waves.
Right.
But it seems like things have sort of stabilized.
In the first 6 months of the year, we did have a decent rainfall. Things were going very, very well. But once we passed July and rolled into August, and hurricane season dried up on us and the front stopped coming through, it depended mainly on just afternoon showers and thunderstorms. That's when things began to dry out. And talking about stabilizing, I guess you're right. We're just stabilizing on a rather dry, warm situation for the next few months or so.
It's interesting. It's almost too pleasant because it makes you forget about the underlying concern, which is we need the rain.
Yeah, because in November we had highs in the 70s, even the 80s, very, very nice, but it only rained 3 days in November. And December's off to a cool, comfortable start, but still not much in the way of rain.
Well, everywhere I go, people say something about the weather.
Sure.
I know they do for you. It's a fascinating subject, and I appreciate you sharing your expertise on it.
Yeah, glad to be here.
We'll have you back in a few. Hopefully, when we have you back, first part of next year, we'll talk about the deficit being erased and us getting some rain.
And maybe a couple snowfalls to talk about, too.
I hope so.
That'd be nice.
I hope so. On school days.
Sure.
Thank you, George. Appreciate it.
Sure.
When the Means Report comes back, we'll let you know how you can stay in touch with this broadcast and help shape future episodes in the new year and beyond, as the Means Report rolls on.